IVM.
So welcome to another week on IVM. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. This week on Simplified in a Shorty, Naren and Shrikit simplify the phenomena of near-death experiences with interesting cases and scientific theories. On Pragati, Pawan and Hamsani are joined by economic policy expert Yazad Jal to discuss negative and positive rights. On the scene and the unseen, Amit Verma is joined by stand-up comedian Aditi Mittal and our production controller Swati to discuss misogyny and popular culture. On Pulyabazi, Saurav and Pranay speak to Shruti Rajgopalan about the meaning and importance of property rights in India. This week on Shunya One, we have Suchita Salwan, founder and CEO of LBP, a local recommendations platform striving to discover all things new and old. On Hustle Science, Ranveer and Tejaswan speak to their buddy, tech entrepreneur and founder of Hello Inc., Angad Nadkarni, to understand his coding craze and a lot more about his stories. And now, on to your shows.
Stories, we've got stories. They're a little bit of funny and a little bit of dissenter. You wanna hear them? It's got humans. They're sitting in a box and talking bold at Varta Lab.
Hi you guys, welcome to Varta Lab. My name is Aakash.
I'm Navin.
And today we're going to do things a little different. Usually we tell you a story right to start off, but when you have two great storytellers in the room, I think you should let them do it. So,
Great.
Take it away, Naman.
Okay, so actually I'm not really into podcasts so much, but I was like, oh, Aakash, I know this guy. So I was like, where have I met him? But then I was like, oh, everyone's a comedian, so that's where I have met him before.
Everyone's a comedian.
That's true.
So comedy open mic, and actually it was one of the earlier days of Vice India kind of starting out, and I was doing the role of being like this cultural poacher. Appropriator in some way.
So you wore like a kimono to work one day.
We'll come back to this cultural appropriation thing because there was something we were trying to address in our film, which we'll talk about eventually. And I was like, okay, let me go out to open mics and find people who are still trying to identify as comedians.
Yes.
And before they become the 500k Instagram follower types, let's poach them. And that's where I discovered two great talents.
Yeah.
Nilaksh Mathur from Bangalore. And
he's actually from Jodhpur.
Yeah, Rajasthan.
He studies in Bangalore.
He studies
in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Of course, that great story about Christ College. And Pavitra Shetty, who is a financial consultant.
Yes. She's an engineer with the
engineer.
She was
but a weekend comedian.
Yeah.
So when I reached out to her, I said, we'd like you to host stuff for us. So she said, yeah, but only if the shoots are on weekends. And
that's why she was supposed to be on this podcast as well.
Yeah,
we haven't quite gotten around to it because she's
also, it is important to note that even the analyst stuff is actually part-time for her. Pavi is full-time friend.
And a hugger.
Full-time hugger. You cannot walk down, whenever I go to Canvas, you go to Palladium first, I take the escalators. With most comics, it's not a problem. With Pavitra, it's a problem. Not because fans, because she'll meet somebody, then she'll ask about her, your uncle and your aunt and your, and then she'll meet somebody else, your driver and the guy, hey.
She's your local auntie, but like in a younger package.
If you could get paid to go to birthday parties and weddings, she would be employed 365 days of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's
sounds like a good job, no?
Yeah.
Get some investment.
No, monetize karne ko time lagega.
So how did the poaching finally go then?
Nothing. Nilaksh came in, interned with us, and
nice.
That was great. He also shot one show that I am entirely proud of called Ye Kya Hai, where we go around public art installations around the country and question it with the question Ye Kya Hai. So Nilaksh's episode is due in a few weeks, I think.
And he's pretty excited.
And he's reviewed the child gives birth to a mother.
Oh God!
The one at Bandra.
So the first one we did was at the Fish Building in Hyderabad.
Right.
And hopefully, if the views take us forward, this show will continue. So yeah,
it should. Like the first proper thing that Vice India did recently was the Kya Bolta Bantai documentary, which is basically on the gully rap scene. And I was just like, yes, sign me up, because I've been like a big fan.
Yeah, I've
of
been
the Gully
following
Lab.
it up throughout. It's so amazing that you guys picked that scene to work on also, because like it's so hard to find people who talk about that.
Before Zoya Akhtar ruins it.
Yeah, before Zoya ruins. It's like watching Sairad on night of premiere. Before the idea of it getting remade with some waste of flesh is not even. Anyway, hatred aside,
both of them wins together.
Yeah.
Like shit. It's our opinion, Zoya. If you're listening to this, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
listening, but doesn't my voice like sound like Farhan Akhtar a little bit? No.
yeah, why not?
Sure. So let's introduce the other
Yeah,
guests.
yes,
Just
of course.
Yeah.
What is this?
What is this
This is
mansplaining
not
special?
Sexism.
You guys.
Sexism.
Yeah.
Um,
Nidhi.
Nidhi
is here.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I know Nidhi from before, but it's like a
Blur?
a little bit, no. So the first time.
Oh.
I met Nidhi thrice in my life, much like Dave Chappelle met OJ. Just waiting for the whole lawsuits. Anyway, so we have a common friend.
Yeah.
Because actually Akshita is a common friend because of
Dhaval.
my friend Dhaval. Dhaval, you've heard of Dhaval. Dhaval is
Everybody's
Dhaval.
heard of Dhaval, but yeah.
You should. He's a great guy. But anyway, so I met Nidhi at Akshita's place a few times. But apparently, she was. I don't know. I was present at her event. She was part of the event, and then I was added to the event as an extra person. And they were all playing this Game of Thrones Risk.
Yes.
Nice.
And I remember this very clearly because it's like an 8-hour game, right? So, and in the beginning, everyone's just trying to understand what's going on. And by the end, you figure like you've really got strategy.
Yeah.
And we had moved towards we were 7 hours in the game. And I was winning. I remember that really clearly. And Aakash walks in, and I think you'd come from a party or something, because obviously 8 hours, so it was now 2 a.m. or something.
Okay.
And he'd walked in, and he just was convincing the people that I was beating to do other stuff. And I was just like, who are you? Just leave. Stop giving them advice.
I'm America.
You're not playing. Just go.
That's how Hitler felt.
Yeah. Just leave.
Just leave. Nice.
And eventually, you did not win.
No, I didn't, because he
Why,
was...
Aakash?
The person I was Akshita won because
Okay.
I was my hand was क्या बोलते हो मेरा हाथ था उसके
मेरा
ऊपर.
हाथ तो
Yeah, it was I don't know, I wanted to be a sport about it, but I took it really badly.
Yeah. Because the thing is, Nidhi doesn't understand that I come from a lifetime of being beaten at risk by my family, okay? And they are merciless. And imagine being 12 and my elder brother is 7 years. So a 19-year-old and then two 30-year-olds you're playing against, okay? At 12. So I am very good at losing at risk. So when I play with people who are not that good, I am already pretty good. So I immediately manipulate everyone, make them fight each other, and then...
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Nice one, Akshita.
Yeah, families don't show mercy when it comes to board games, do they?
Oh, dude, they are very hardcore.
Like
with board.
Monopoly also. My family was just like, now you're in jail.
Yeah. My dad would use it to teach me that life is unfair. Like that was
Exactly.
his...
What are these posh families you guys grew up in? Board games?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
got
board
Belan.
game. Oh, I
ये ले
thought
मार खा बेटा.
you never had snakes and ladders?
No, there's too many people. Joint family situation, Gujarati household, not happening.
अरे मेरा भी गुजराती
हाँ,
household. But
तुम लोग साउथ बॉम्बे वाले, हम लोग साउथ कैलकाटा. Not happening.
South Calcutta? Really? You grew up in South Calcutta?
Yeah.
That's hard, dude.
Not hard at all.
I mean, not in the sense like
was
the
too
fact
easy.
that you're here now is like a...
Oh,
you made it out.
Yeah, my mom was like, you get out at the age of 10. So she was like, after boarding school, get the out.
So you never grew up in that Calcutta culture?
High school, it was terrible. It was just
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Muscat, Oman. It's in the
I
Gulf.
know where Muscat
It's
is.
next to Dubai. This is what I have to tell everyone.
The Gulf of Kutch. I've heard.
Yeah. So I was there for I think 15 years.
Okay.
And then a year in Bahrain, and then I came to Bombay in class 11.
But you guys got to know, where does she live now?
Where does she live now?
Mud Island.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
You and
fascinating.
Siddharth Basrur are the only two people who I
How
know
long did it take you to get
voluntarily-
home last night, Nidhi?
2.5 hours.
Wait, don't you take the ferry from Warsaw?
It took me 2.5 hours with the ferry from Warsaw.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Does it run
it's-
at all times?
Yeah, it is. So unless it... no, it shuts at 12.
Okay.
And through the day it's on unless there's a high tide or it rains a lot or the boat doesn't work. But otherwise, yeah, sure. So,
You're going to your house
So
depending on
only
the weather condition.
6 months a year.
I left home got home, ate a snack, went for a run, showered, went for a party. She's like, I'm still on my way home. I'm like, oh my God.
I can't think about it because it breaks me.
But it's beautiful, no? Mud Island, very beautiful.
And not paying rent is also beautiful. It's just a really positive feeling, and my bank account feels great.
Dengue ho jayega.
The Mud Island it's like I don't know, I feel it's a love-hate relationship.
For those of you who don't know, if you're not from Bombay, Mud Island is essentially this part of Bombay. It's part of the mainland, okay? And it's you can take like a jetty kind of ferry to go there. It's known for film shoots and shady hotels and
rave parties.
And rave parties. And
that's the place where the cops had raided the hotel. And
yeah.
And then all of them were like, "Tumko culture aata nahi kya?" To sab.
And
that's where our friend Nidhi. Yeah. So, Exen, how is it? You have some family property in Mud Island?
My mom lives there.
Your mom lives there?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I just live with her because I've been renting in Bombay, and I just, like the last place I rented, we didn't have water, but my room used to leak. Like I had to fill buckets in the monsoon and change the bucket every hour.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't pay money for this.
Yeah, you can't pay money.
It's one way of collecting water.
But bathroom mein pani nahi hai, like it was just, I couldn't do it.
No, I mean, it's just a question of transporting assets, no? So, I mean, collect from the ceiling and put it to butt and collect to ceiling.
And bathe with ceiling pani.
अरे तो थोड़ा बीच में वो मलेरिया वाला गोली डाल देने का अंदर.
But do you think the water that comes from the pipes is clean enough? Like,
no, this was literally percolating through my roof. Yeah. So it was brown.
Oh. And, throw in some coffee.
Sure. But
so now both of you are filmmakers at this point.
Which is I feel like anybody who comes and is an artist now, I feel like genuinely my heart says, why make this mistake? Like, because we made it and we are enjoying it mostly and suffering occasionally. How is the filmmaker world?
Okay, so I did my specialization in college was journalism, and I was like, oh, if I do journalism, that's how I'm going to go into writing. Okay. And I'd been writing ever since I was a kid, like school magazine to college magazine, like that kind of writing. Then I got a real job at NH7.in, which is to be like, I want to say the pitchfork of India.
Yeah.
Full of haters and great opinions. So that was my sort of intro to this whole music scene in some way, because I was reading it all through college and I should contribute to them. That led to me secretly, at the back of my head, I always wanted to write dialogues and screenplays for films. Till I had my first meeting in Aram Nagar, and I was like, yeah, this is never happening again.
Yeah, I think Aram Nagar has come up in our podcast several times because of its general shadiness and darkness that resides within.
So around the time I was also like photographing gigs that I used to go to. I used to go to Blue Frog like 3 times a week between 2011 to 13. Like I was there all the time.
Okay.
I figured that, if I can operate a camera, someone asked me, can you do video as well? And I was like, oh, yeah. And
then turned the wheel around
like, yeah, I do have that, I want to believe, some sense of aesthetic. So literally from writing, I was like, these guys are paying me 50 paisa a word? What? To, oh my God, do you want to get paid more for one day of shooting? I was like, yeah, okay, that's great. That kind of helped me. And a lot of the video work I started doing was kind of non-fiction and documentary and like television space. Mm-hmm. So it kind of really helped me merge that storytelling as a former writer plus being a visual person. So it really kind of came together. But it took a while to get to being confident to make like this 30-minute film that we've made now called Kya Bolta Bantai.
And Nidhi, you were a lawyer before.
Yeah, so I went to law school, which was 5 years of my life.
Which law school were you in?
Gujarat National Law University.
Oh my
in
God!
Gandhinagar.
Oh my! I'm very aware of GNLU. That's how Akshita is also from GNLU. Yeah. That's how you know her. Okay. GNLU is, I don't know if you have said this before, but GNLU, a Supreme Court judgment called, do you know the words that were used?
It was actually a Gujarat High Court judgment.
I thought it was a Supreme Court judgment.
Where they called it an oligarchy.
An oligarchy of human rights violations.
Like you have a person, it's like one person at the center. Sure, okay. And it's just, oligarchy of human rights violations. So when I was in university, it wasn't so bad. It was.
You don't know this? She went to the oligarchy of human rights violations.
Why have you never told me this, Nidhi?
Because it's embarrassing and.
I've heard all the other stories of GNLU.
Yeah, but so it's I mean.
That's why this podcast exists. Like we can bring out stories.
Tell these stories.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I went to university, it was much different, very very different, and. Sure, we had a management change, and that was like close to my fifth year.
Yeah.
and that's when shit started hitting the fan. And let's not get into that because there's so much I have to say. But
it's not just you, you know. I mean,
yeah,
I
it's
keep,
a lot of people
going to the NLUs a bunch because law school gigs. And Jodhpur, for example, NLU Jodhpur had a very similar situation that went down when Dainik Bhaskar did a sting of the 5th year celebrating fucking 5th year's farewell party. बच्चे दारू पी रहे,
Yeah.
एक लड़की लड़का लोग हाथ पकड़े, क्या होएगा? अरे dude, come on dude, ये लोग 23 साल के हैं.
No, it was really weird because, I mean, obviously even for us in our 4th year or something, we had a circular, and this was like a really big deal at university, where obviously you couldn't smoke cigarettes in hostel or on college premises. But we had a circular that came out that said if you're a current student or alumni of GNLU, you can never smoke cigarettes. And we were like, what? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And they're like, you can never do it in any country ever. No matter, like, you can
Universe.
pass out. Yeah, you can be 40 years old, but you just can't smoke cigarettes.
We'll try
And it was retroactively applicable. It was like, and this came into effect 2 months before the date of this circular.
Nice.
And we were like, but we're a law school. We can see through this. Come on.
Yeah, but it's so interesting. Despite being a law school,
We'll send our robots after you if we ever catch you.
what is this?
I don't know. It was like, I mean, sure, we all hated it and we made like a big ruckus, but it didn't go away, So it.
How many times was your college sued by the kids in the college during your tenure there?
When I was there, almost 0 times. But right after I left, there was immediately, I think, there was a boy who got in through the CLAT. The CLAT is a common law entrance test for law universities, and he'd gotten in on a quota and. So there's, how they have that engineering course for, it's called Super 8 or Super 20, I'm not sure.
Super
but
30.
Super
There's
30.
a Hrithik Roshan movie coming out.
Yeah,
about
so
it.
like that, there is something called the IDIA, which helps students coming from lower income brackets to join these kind of law schools.
Yeah.
So one of these guys got through and he was, on a scholarship. And the university was like, okay, no, we're not giving you admission. And he said, but I've gotten through. And they said, no, we're revoking your admission and your scores and we don't care, you're not getting in. And that was the first case. He fought that case at the Gujarat High Court and won his right to go to the university.
Nice.
That's so ironic.
Yeah, exactly.
You fought them to get in and now you're in for 5 years.
Yeah, but it was great because
better
he
become the dean at the end of 5 years.
I know, right? I mean, but yeah, that was the start to a lot of other stuff because that is not the kind of rep you want for a law university,
But
Especially
it's so funny.
A student of a law college suing a law college at the court to get to attend law college. It's just like bizarre.
My college had 3 cases against it in my 4 years there, and then I moved to Rizvi, and Rizvi there are no cases, people get cut or something. I don't know. But these 4 years,
They have real estate cases.
yeah, why not? And beating up Buddha Buddhi cases. So this 4 times in 3 or 4 times in the 4 years, dude, and all of them were the same essentially. Once the college was named in the charge sheet of a complaint because a guy threw a shoe across the room and it hit a girl. Well, he was not throwing it at the girl. In his defense, he was just throwing it generally. Nice. And she happened to walk into its way, and I was witness, so I know I'm not officially a witness. Don't call me.
What do you say?
The other one was because the kids had such low attendance that I think some kid missed by 1%.
Yeah.
And SVKM being SVKM, they didn't allow him to go in. And the kids just sued the college. And I'm like, who would want to run a law college ever? Because the minute you mess up little bit.
Like, मुझे अभी मालूम है मैं क्या.
अभी मेरे को पता है, तू ही सिखाया मेरे को.
Now you're
Yeah.
It's like we'll give you the tools that you'll need to sue us back.
Hey sir, could you help me with this PIL I'm drafting against you?
It doesn't happen in engineering, thankfully.
Yeah. What will you do? Make a bomb to blow the place up?
That's what engineering students do, yeah.
No, that's what chemistry students do.
Chemical engineering.
And engineering students mostly advertising or comedy.
Comedy.
Too many engineers in
Writing.
comedy, I feel.
Yeah, I think that they should be given their own like Netflix or something.
You know, I
Just तुम लोग ही देखो ये सब.
wasn't allowed to do stand-up until I had a diploma in audio engineering. That's what they...
Yeah. Your opening line has to be that you're an engineer.
How do you segue into a bit about horny Indian men without saying, in engineering
I was
college?
walking down the street and I happened to fucking notice.
Engineering students spread all across
Or it's like,
without a job.
so I'm an engineer, which means I'm also single and I use my hand a lot. So that's
Guys,
And that's, just straight. Like, I love doing this whenever there's an open mic going on and somebody asks me, how was it? I say, okay, I'm going to ask why at everything you said. Like, you know what I mean? Like a premise. I'm an engineer, so my hands hurt all the time. Your hands hurt all the time. What kind of an engineer are you? Are you
Mazdoor
He's
thodi.
working.
Mazdoor hai kya tu? You know what I mean? Like, those are the questions that pop. My left hand is more muscular than my right hand because
I'm
I'm an
Popeye.
engineering student.
Get a life, bro.
It's just like you can apply anything to this at this point.
Yeah.
Which I did. My opening bit was that.
Yeah.
I would make somebody ask me how gay I am. They're like, how? Like, I'm so gay I took engineering on purpose. Which I think is better
but I
than
think
the other.
That's a great play
joke.
on it.
Play on it,
amazing.
Yeah.
But it's
Thanks,
more
guys.
so, I think it's not a comment on the stereotype, but it's a comment on a very real situation of there not being enough women in engineering school. So you're taking the other. Anyway, this joke is justified basically.
But
5
no, you all
stars.
talk about law so much. I'm going to talk about engineering.
Okay.
The thing is, it's true. Like,
Fine, guys. Can we talk about my media degree? Hell.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about
Fine.
journalists.
Do you have a place in Mother Island? No, right? So it's like, doesn't
Listen,
matter.
band.
But that's what, like, there is a paucity of women in engineering in general. And by the end of my college year, like, there was like a ratio of 3:1, which
Wow.
means that 3 guys had dated one girl at some point in that year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was just.
So here's interesting. Law school, we had 10 boys in a class of in a batch of 110, 120,
and only
Whoa,
girls.
whoa.
and everything else was
Same,
girls.
apna call.
Everything else was
30
girls.
dudes, 90.
Everything
else.
The table, the pankha,
Sab ladki.
the sab ladki.
So what happened? Why did you switch to filmmaking eventually?
To be, I always hope for the story to sound better than it actually does. But so I finished law school and then I was actually this might be the reason I became a non-lawyer, which is I was working a capital markets job at a law firm.
It's the worst.
Yeah, it is terrible if you don't truly love markets. If you don't love it, it's just going to be very, very painful. And also the stakes are really, really high, So it's like, oh, can you afford to make this mistake and lose 100 crores for this company?
No.
And and you're just like, what? No, I don't know. Maybe, no, I don't know. So I did that for a year and I just felt like,
You
if
lost
I was...
100 crores for a year.
Shut up. Never. So I felt like if I was...
At what frequency were you losing the 100
Yeah, please, I want to know this. Itna budget
I
mein
think
hai
that's
kya
why they
film ke
billed
liye?
them so much.
You had a lot
so-
of D&Ds and all over. You were doing a lot of...
No, I was doing a lot of
DDs,
due
sorry.
diligence.
DDs, sorry.
Yeah, D&D. I was like, no.
My bad. DDs
Dungeons
and
and
Discovery.
Dragons.
So,
Demand draft.
interestingly... So, my girlfriend is one of your juniors.
In Jesse?
In
GNLU.
GNLU.
Oh, now we're openly
Matlab-
talking about the girlfriend.
Now we are.
Now we
Okay,
are.
now we are.
Last episode, Aakash is like, dude, remove the intro story of Parth's episode because my girlfriend is mentioned and it's gone sideways.
But not with her.
When you can
but-
publicly acknowledge, only then is it a girlfriend. We've had this debate in office a lot. When is a person your girlfriend or a boyfriend? When there's public acknowledgement.
But when your parents know, I think is the...
No.
is one,
No.
right? No, right? So
No.
now
They could confuse the
But
names.
here's the jadoo. See, my parents listen to this podcast.
Oh. Hello, Mr. and Mrs.
So a friend of mine is your
There are
junior.
two people who contribute.
Okay.
A friend of mine
You
is
guys
your
lied
junior.
to us.
A
We
special
thought
friend.
millions of people will listen to this podcast.
We
They
are not
will.
wise.
They will.
Twice.
Nice.
You're the settlers in this relationship, not us.
Yeah.
We are the reachers.
We're the reachers.
But my friend recently was doing this DD, and there were 3 documents we needed to get some discovery shit. And she just said, can you please just... And I'm like, okay, I will help you out. Now, this is how many 4 years after law school. And I'm going through the agreement or some rent agreement, this, that. Just going through, looking for the keywords and all that. And about halfway through the second document, it kind of hit me that I fought my parents 5 years to not fucking be doing this right now. I fought everyone I loved to keep, and now I'm sitting next to this woman and doing discovery, and it just came crashing down, and I almost cried and all, and then she didn't make me do it again.
Yeah, I mean, that
Love
was...
works in mysterious
Yeah, no, it
ways.
just my humanity destroyed me for a second. I thought I was this selfish, and I worked so hard to be that guy, and now I'm doing this.
Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you've done for love? Let's put this question out there.
Yeah, that's a nice.
That's a nice way to go into this.
Smashed my phone
So-
in angst.
Yeah.
I
That's
know.
not the weirdest.
That's
but
not
like,
weird, but it's
that's Jawani.
Jawani, yeah.
Yeah.
Garam khun, garam mutton नहीं खाने का है.
और वो
Mutton
पतला
खाएगा
brick
तो-
phone था तो चला. I didn't feel bad.
I was going to move to Dubai full time last year around this time.
No.
I was dating someone from the Middle East.
Yeah.
No.
And
I did a comedy festival in San Francisco, so I could have a stopover in Boston.
Yeah. We all do weird things for love.
I think mostly just traverse
Boston?
distance. I think because
Yeah,
somebody was
distance,
in Boston. But anyway, I was going to go to NYFA because it's close to Boston. My point is,
NYFA, you might as well not go to.
I know, yaar, but I
मतलब-
was like New York open mic, and then I went to New York, did open mic. Said, "Ye layak nahi apne nahi." Anyway, so since we moved very slowly
Angular.
through the
Yeah.
stories of your lives, we're going to take a break and regroup and hold hands. Okay, listeners don't really know is that during these breaks we all hold our breath. So, are you guys ready? Ready?
Yeah,
Ready?
yeah,
1,
yeah.
2, 3.
गिव मी अ वर्ड या कोई भी लाइन, कुछ भी हो सकता है यार. क्या कहा आपने? टोपी. ओके. मोहन जोशी hated wearing टोपीज. He felt suffocated in them. टोपी पहनते ही उसे स्कूल की याद आती थी. Where of course he had no choice but to wear a टोपी. वह जिस दिन पास आउट हुआ उसी दिन उसने अपनी टोपी का बॉनफायर बना दिया. And since then he'd never worn a cap or a hat. ना कड़कती धूप में and not even to बचाओ from the ठंडी. But from Monday 26th February, Mohan Joshi had to wear a topi all the time. Why? Because if he didn't, everyone around him knew exactly वो क्या सोच रहा था. They knew that he was wondering how the girl in the yellow churidar would look बिना कपड़े के. They knew when he was calling the boss a सड़ेला टमाटर. They knew everything. पर ये सब हुआ कैसे? अरे भाई, यही तो स्टोरी है. और ये स्टोरी आप ही ने मुझे दिया by giving me the starting word. यही तो है The Croc's Tales. Words आपके, कहानी आपके लिए. Catch the stories on Monday and Thursday on the IVM website, app, and anywhere you get your podcast from. See you soon.
That was some yoga shit right there, you guys. Great
Reflection
job,
from
great
Aakash.
job.
Breathing
Brought to you by
exercise.
Patanjali.
After there is no smoke in this room, just so you all know.
Damn it.
So,
Right.
okay, law school, Calcutta.
Move to Bombay, Mud Island.
Mud Island, Bandra.
Yes.
Gujarati woman. What is the denomination you are?
Mangalorean.
Mangalorean.
Hey, hi.
hi.
What's up? काय करताय? I forgot my language, sorry. कशी आहे?
I speak Tulu.
Oh fuck.
Like, what?
Manas anda, I don't need that.
Do you speak
Yeah.
Gujarati?
बराबर एकदम.
First class.
That
Nice.
sounded like
Hey,
For the
Deep
first
हो गया,
time.
first
For the first
time.
Not बराबर.
Barabar.
Very
See,
different.
Barabar is
Barabar is
Marathi.
Marathi.
Yeah.
Barabar is chal se away.
You know, every time there's either a Mangalorean or a Gujarati, and the other one is always outnumbered. This is the first time we have
Yeah.
equal teams.
Guys, regional content is where it's at.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're going to switch to Gujarati now. So rap
Sometimes
documentary je che.
So अच्छे.
Dhasu.
So let's talk about
Oh, yes,
the
let's talk
documentary.
about-
It's making a lot of waves right now. It's getting viral on
Yes.
Facebook, on
Is it?
Twitter. It is.
It is.
Because
I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know.
yeah,
I have seen it a lot of
we
times.
are your marketplace right now.
Yeah.
So and you're also doing like a proper launch for this. Like by the time the episode comes out, the
There
launch
was
will
a
happen.
proper launch.
Yeah, so
at
we did like a
Anti.
press screening on 11th of May.
Yeah, at Social, the one.
Yeah. So we did a press screening. Then we also sent a bunch of screeners to people around. Then we launched the documentary. I want to say
21st May, I think.
June.
June,
21st of June. And tomorrow, in fact, we're doing a screening at the Godrej Culture Lab in
Yes.
Vikhroli.
I'll be there.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I'm one of the hopefully 300 people that are expected to, which is has me shitting my pants.
Now don't feel special at all.
I'm like,
चलो तुम्हें नहीं आएगा.
हाँ हमारा है ना. बहुत
तेरे को stress नहीं
बारिश
रहेगा.
बारिश हो जाएगा तो फिर स्ट्रेस है ना. तेरे को भी ग्रैंड रोड से
But
आने
बारिश
को
में
फिर-
वो कल्चर लैब एरिया काफी सुंदर लगता है.
हाँ, so
विक्रोली में.
got to stay one of the few places that has some greenery in this
Yeah.
city.
Because that's what gully rap is about.
Yeah,
Greenery.
just
The greenery.
the other kind of greens, yeah. But yeah, so I feel that the documentary is also playing on this platform called Woot,
Yeah.
which I guess will help us reach a very different kind of
Lots of housewives.
lots of housewives.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think it'd be great. They're like, oh, look at the Saas Bahu show. Gully rap.
Kya
oh.
bolta bantai?
Yeah. ये इसमें क्या हो रहा है? क्या बोल रही है आज बहू? So I just think we've got in an interesting place. To be honest, initially I was a bit. I mean, having worked in the music scene in different capacities as writer, photographer, marketing, a bunch of roles, I was feeling a bit jaded with like the whole idea of this gully rap situation.
Yeah.
But the way we kind of approached the story was a bit
Jaded in what sense?
I felt that we had more brands in the Indian hip hop scene than we had music.
That is, okay, great. I'm glad you, okay, yes, I agree.
I mean,
agree.
we were like, अरे ये लो जूते, ये लो jeans, ये लो hoodie, लेकिन गाने नहीं हैं. So I feel that when I brought that question up with some of the rappers, most took it rather well. A couple didn't. So that was my basic premise. And actually the larger premise that Nidhi and I ended up discussing initially was that, man, here's a spoof rap group, which means there's already an existing big spoof group.
That's
scene.
also an amazing...
right? So, I mean, I discovered Tadpatri Talkies, having followed Asim's work in B-grade Bollywood cinema for a while.
Asim is amazing.
Asim is amazing.
So I was like, okay, let's reach out to these guys. And I saw that music video and I was like, this is hilarious. Especially that bit where he's on these like steel chakkas using it as a turntable. And I'm like, this is great. So I was like, if there's a spoof that exists, that means the scene has already reached a certain point.
But it's so weird because has it though? I don't think...
Because, so that's what happened, right? So that was my observation a friend of mine actually signed Nazi onto OML a few years ago, and I had written about a bunch of these guys. I had seen them perform at festivals, clubs. 101 India had done like this whole series called Hip Hop Homeland, which was profiling a bunch of these. It helped a lot of these guys come together on one kind of platform, and sort of it was I want to say, this decade's version of what the Indian music scene had in the early 2000s, which was GigPad. Which was like this online forum where they'd all get together. Yeah. This helped me discover that a lot of these guys knew each other from before on Orkut.
Because of the battle rap community.
Of the battle rap community called Insignia.
Yeah.
So just all these discoveries. But literally, and if I were to be honest, one of our first angles to approach this film was let's profile or like let's talk to Tadpatri Talkies and their spoof rap creation called Garibi, which I thought was a genius name for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And explored the scene through them.
Yeah.
Obviously, because this had to be our first docu and we wanted to like help it reach lots of audiences as on Woot. We were like, okay, maybe if we don't tell the story just through them, but set up the scene and then introduce the spoof angle.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there are different narrative structures you can choose, and as filmmakers and as people who consume copious amounts of content, I would have watched it either way. But I guess general public is like, who are these spoof guys? What are they spoofing? Yeah. So we chose to sort of...
Because when Garibi, Tadpatri Talkies is introduced in the documentary, they immediately like point out like how spoofable the rap scene is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like everybody more or less is trying to be like each other. They're trying to be like the black dudes from America.
Except for the Saat Bantai. No, Char Bantai.
Saat Bantai.
Because there's
because there's 7 and hum Saat mein
hai. Right. So, you know the guy, the perform guy from Saat Bantai. I love that.
Yoku Big. I love him. I'm his big fan.
So, Yoku Big, what I loved about... So, two things from what you said. One is, it's very interesting to see. For me, the most fascinating part about this is that the spoof album came out before a single rap album came out of this scene.
Exactly. That was our first...
These were our constant conversations.
So we were like, we should make this because... It's ridiculous that you've got people talking about gully rap and it's exploding. There's movie, brands, but there's no album.
Yeah.
And Tadpatri has, like Garibi has an album that's pretty good. Like it's really good.
It's become my mainstay hip-hop listening album. I was listening to it on the way here.
You can count the number of Indian hip-hop releases. I'm not even going to say albums, EPs or albums on two hands. Like literally.
Yeah.
Dope Deluxe still doesn't have an album, but they have lots of releases. So at least they've been consistent over a long period of time.
But Dope Deluxe, like they are one of those people who like kind of steered the way, right?
Steered the way.
But even with like Elsewhere has a lot of great rappers, but there's no long form. I mean, Anmol is working on that Marathi album.
Yeah, which is pretty great. Like I heard parts of it. Sounds pretty great.
This is the other thing I wanted to bring, because Anmol has this duality to him, which I think would be interesting to you all as well, because he's part of the scene, he's from the scene, but he's also the one making fun of the scene.
He is. So I'll tell you how we. Okay, maybe I'm going to get Nidhi talk about this, how we approached the story and pieced the story of this rap together. And
yeah, so it started off with this entire idea that we thought we should do Garibi because they have an album. And we were like, okay, they've made an album in under a month, put out music videos, they're doing something that nobody else is doing. And we wanted to. So initially, when we thought we'd do that, we decided not to because we figured, like you said, that if you say gully rap, people need to know what that is before you introduce what they're making fun of.
Because often we're also in our bubbles where our friends are like, oh yeah, Nizi, bhai, malum hai apne ko, mere gali mein, yeah. So everyone's understanding is just that, but we're also in that bubble. But the thing is, when you're making something like this, which you hope is kind of comes in with some kind of info and opinion, you need to set up the context for the larger audience.
Yeah. So, no, and even when we spoke, so we spent, I think, 3 months just talking to people and just, just being like, okay, this is something we want to do. And talking to rappers, right? So we'd just be like, okay, come in, talk to us. What is your opinion on the scene? And everyone would add a new element, something that we didn't have before. One thing was in common, though, that let's say 90% of them loved Garibi, right?
Yeah.
They didn't really hate it. They were very, very open to the idea of the spoof rap, and they thought, like they say in the documentary, it's pushing hip hop, right?
Yeah.
And they're just saying the same kind of stuff that we want to say, but they've just made it funny with a beat, and they're not taking it personally. But even with Anmol, because I think Ace is
a character though.
So Ace says this, right? Ace is like, what the hell? You can't make fun of the scene while being a part of it.
Scene,
and a lot of other people, on camera also while we were talking to them, said, sure, maybe we wouldn't make a spoof song if we had a problem with the scene. We would go out and tell people, it doesn't sound right, don't do this. Ace was just like, how can you make fun of something that you're a part of?
His arc is the most interesting.
His is the most interesting
because he's like,
a hero.
When you watch the whole on any Lifetime documentary, there'll be someone who was left out, sort of didn't really quite make the cut because Vivian Devine was also part of that. So it was very interesting to see his perspective, but also I felt his pain. I felt what he's going through is real.
Yeah, because he's been doing this for the longest, longest time, at least in Bombay. And so again, like he says in the docu, he's just there was a time when people would not take us seriously at all, and now it's become a thing where people you are being recognized.
It's so interesting because I don't know if you saw that Vox ka explained. Vox has this the one about esports, right? So there's the guy who's a shoutcaster for esports now, and at the end, he says, people come and tell me whether I feel poison about the fact that people were, we didn't make any money. Yes, we came from an era where payouts weren't good, but am I jealous of these guys? No, I am excited, and you can see it on his face that excitement. We made it, the scene made it, which is not the same vibe that Ace has. Ace seems to have that bitterness.
I feel like it's a bit of both because he's genuinely happy now that people are talking about the scene and that people are getting people to perform. There's music coming out, brands want to sponsor, whatever. It's something that people are talking about and it's legitimate. Yeah. But there is a sense definitely that he hasn't got his due. But it's not. I don't think that's made him bitter about the future of the scene.
I don't think most people who we spoke to were bitter about the future of it, despite the movie. So I'll give you an analogy to this. When, say, Rock On was coming out, the band scene, which I was entrenched in at one point, I just find it to be rather elitist and very. Firstly, to be a rapper, you need a mic. You don't even need a mic. You need a pen. Okay, but to be in a band in India,
you need a bunch.
They have it easy, I want to say, compared to if you see bands in the rest of the world.
They say the same thing about comics as well.
Yeah,
we
have it very easy.
we just go and show up.
And the rock music community was up in arms against Rock On, and rightfully so, because Meri Laundry Ka Ek Bill is not a legitimate lyric, right? Javed Saab.
I used to do this joke about Javed Akhtar writing that song because Javed Akhtar wrote those lyrics.
Yeah,
and just the visual of him sitting.
And so I'll tell you what actually enraged the, so to say, rock music community. There were posters which said "cock on" and just the shit, memes before memes existed was happening, and people were going crazy. Also because Javed Akhtar in one interview famously or infamously said that Indians don't understand rock, and then you go and write all these Sinbad the Sailor lyrics and whatever. So it was very different because it was privileged kids feeling outraged about showing a rich guy who decides to go and reunite his band with a blazing guitar solo which is not connected to any amp, right, by Arjun Rampal. But that, like, Rock On could might as well be the story of Indiscreet, because they were all South Bombay boys and they got together after many years. Rock Machine became Indiscreet and created an album called Evolve.
Like Arjun Rampal learned guitar for 3 months for that role.
Yeah.
Never did he spend time on acting.
Yet, won the national award.
Yeah. But that Cuban drug dealer mustache, you guys. That was
Joe
really...
Mascarenas.
He kept that for Daddy as well, by the way. Proper use.
Oh, God. Okay.
So that happened, right? Whereas when this film sort of, and we had this chat in the film, we have an interview with Zoya as well, and it was actually, I feel like my boss said that, okay, don't go in with your early angst, go in very objectively and talk to her about, why Bollywood, and this and that. So at one point I did say that, Zoya, okay, your brother was in this film and that same production house is making this film as well. How do you think you're going to sort of not appropriate in a way, at least from the music? Like, Rock On, the music was done by Shankar Ehsaan Loy. Loy is a great guitar player. So is Ehsaan. As in, Loy is a great musician. Ehsaan is a great guitar player. I just find that Shankar Ehsaan Loy making rock music it's tough to digest, right?
Yeah.
Sure, you can have elements of it, but like if you're showing a band, then get a real band to make it. I'm sure there are bands in India. It's like expecting Vishal and Shekhar to make a Pentagram song. It's not happening. Yeah. Right? Even though the same people, people involved. So for Gully Boy, I know they got Ankur Tiwari to be the music consultant, because he has his feet dipped in both sides, because he's a screenwriter for Bollywood and pretty much in the indie scene. So that was a question we asked Zoya. And so she mentioned that spent a lot of time with sort of the rappers, understanding their story. They did writing workshops with them. They auditioned. All the real kids, most of the kids who are playing rappers in the film are actual rappers and have retained their names. So it's
except for Ranveer.
Just
the main guy can't rap. Okay.
Yeah, वो तो नहीं हो सकता. But that was, the difference was that the guitar players of Bandra and Andheri and Kolaba were outraged with Rock On, but when you speak to these kids, they're like, this is great, because अपने गाने आने वाले इस पिक्चर में भाई, हम आने वाले हैं और अपने नाम से हम लोग बैटल कर रहे हैं रणवीर भाई के साथ, और कुछ नहीं तो पब्लिक को पता चलेगा कि योयो और बादशाह के अलावा ये रैप भी है और उससे बेहतर है.
Correct.
Because the Punjab rap scene, so to say, was
two people.
A larger appropriation of the West Coast rap scene, and in an Indianized context. Yeah. And it was just the same, cars, bitches,
yeah,
booze.
And you can't really, that doesn't really work when you're from the street in Bombay, right?
Yeah.
You can't be
on some level, I feel like I'm the white suburban kid getting into hip hop when I listen to this stuff.
Yeah, because I think we are.
We are. It's like, in the docu, I also speak to Bhanuj, who's a journalist who's written about hip hop more than anyone else, I feel, in the last 5-7 years. And he said that it was people like you and me, scenesters, so to say, Blue Frog mainstay guys, who, when they discovered Afat by Nazi early on, felt like, holy shit, look at us, we're so cool, we're writing about these guys, we're hanging out with them. So I think there was that greater awareness amongst us as well, that, okay, we are talking about this appropriation within the scene to these guys, but a lot of them don't look at it like that. They're like, this is exposure. We don't give a Like, say a brand like, I don't know, Puma, Levi's would do something with the bands. They'd give them here's a recording deal and here's 10 pairs of shoes and some money. These guys would do it, the bands earlier, but some of them would be haters. They're like, oh, what is this brand sponsor shit? Why do I have to make a Facebook post? You got 10 pairs of shoes. These guys are like, give me the 10 pairs of shoes and give me the money, I'll make you a song. Yeah. Because they come from a very different perspective that this is great for us. Anything.
Plus also it's a way out.
Yeah.
It's a way out.
For a lot of us, it's South Bombay kid being in a band when he's 20 is not a way out to where.
It's a hobby.
Yeah.
It's a way out of my home.
Yeah, it's a way out of my house. It's a way out of consciousness because
it's a way out to go meet my friends and smoke a joint.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally that. But for them, now it's really, like a legitimate career option, which is more fascinating than anything else because they own it.
Yeah.
That was the most amazing thing that we discovered in the process of this, like meeting these kids. It was literally like, I think Nidhi want to agree, it was like running like these focus groups with rappers. We'd meet them, like over and over again. I went and hung out with Elsewhere in Shivaji Park, just hung out on Anmol's Terrace, then met. Basically, we were revisiting the history of this nascent gully rap situation through many angles.
Yeah.
And with hip hop, there's also egos involved. So to piece together the correct narrative, or so to say, the closest to the real like sort of timeline was very important. And that's why I think we consciously limited the number of characters in it as well. I mean, we could make a 10-part series of it, but we'd only get bored after a point because it's not. You can't
not
deep
old enough
dive.
also.
Yeah, you can't
Exactly.
deep dive into it as much. Sure, as in you can be indulgent in the 3 episodes, but we decided to say Sat Bantais, they're the youngest. Or
I think that, and it was so interesting because Sat Bantai was the, I mean, when Mr. Big was the only
Yoko
one.
Big.
Mr.
Yoko Big.
Okay, sorry. Yoko Big was the only, Yoko from WWE and Big from Notorious. That's the nomenclature till there.
Yoku is actually Yogesh Kurme, so it's Yoku.
I thought, Yoku.
Yeah.
Kurme.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. But Yoku was the only one who had real foresight when he says, "Pura time thodi gali ka rap karega."
Exactly. So
And I was
that's
so
what-
amazed to see,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah,
god,
he knows
it's
it.
Yoku
the
is
youngest.
the one.
He's 19.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
been rapping. Okay, so on another great story
Wo
about
perform
this. You want
karta
to say
hai,
this?
The social wala story.
No, Yoku, as in when we met them too, when we had seen their video, that
Yeah, so
this is
so
great.
everyone was talking to us about, like, obviously a lot of the people that we knew some, right? We knew Swadesi, we knew Dopedelics.
Right.
We didn't know Sat Bantais. But when we spoke to these guys, they're like, okay, Sat Bantais, they're young, they're the youngest crew, and you should speak to them. So we looked up some of their music videos on YouTube, and these kids, they're like 14 in their music video. And it's adorable, you know, like they're just like walking and then trying to push open gates and they're rapping. And we're like, wow, they're really young. You
We
know?
committed to this.
Yeah, and so I set up a meeting with them, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, we'll come to your office and talk to you and stuff." But when we met them, they were like puberty had hit, right? And they were just way older and way more like badass looking with their caps and glasses, and we were like, "Oh, we were expecting these children." But also their music. I mean, from that first video, which was sweet. You know,
Let's be polite.
yeah, it was sweet, and they were really young, and
Yeah.
now they just released a new song.
Achanak Bhayanak.
Yeah, Achanak Bhayanak.
yeah.
And it's so much better, you know. And in the middle, they've not really done anything, so you can't see their growth.
Yeah.
But even when we met them and spoke to them, they were just much more mature than the kind of boys that we expected to meet, because we were thinking we're meeting very young kids.
Yeah,
But
And
no.
it was amazing to see their maturity levels as compared to a lot of the others who we
Yeah.
met who had been around. Because what is also fascinating and something we kind of consciously tried to weave into the narrative of our film was that for someone like a Sat Bantais, who are from Dharavi, say for someone like a Stoney, he was listening to people like 50 Cent or Eminem, whatever. And for, as you'll notice in the documentary, a lot of people, 50 Cent and Eminem were sort of like
Yeah,
the
the
introduction.
first.
And
Yeah.
8 Mile, the movie, was like
Yeah.
really relevant to a
Yeah.
lot of Indian kids, probably including us.
Yeah.
Right? For Sat Bantais, it was that, but they also had the reference point of Dopedelics already existing when they were becoming teenagers.
Right.
So for them to have a homegrown heroes,
Yeah.
it's like someone like in a band now, say a young band called Lawn Tuba,
Yeah.
have been doing it. They had a reference point in a band like a Peter Cat Recording Company or a Pentagram
Exactly.
to look
Yeah.
at. So the rap scene also began having that, and they saw Nazi explode like 5
Yeah.
years ago.
Where
4
was
years ago.
Nazi in the document? He's been missing.
He's
Yeah,
been
he's-
missing.
we tried
It's,
to contact
we
him.
tried to. I called him every alternate day
Yeah.
for.
I mean, we were just
8 weeks.
alternating. One day he'd call, one day I'll call, one day he'll call.
Go to
We
Bombay
just-
70, man.
We did.
We did.
Actually.
We walked
Yeah,
around.
actually,
We did
we-
it all.
But he
Yeah.
left, from what I understand, he's
Yeah.
left the
Yeah, he was
country.
out of the country.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories, but
There's
I
a lot
mean,
of sto-
let's not add
yeah.
to
The
the.
point
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
we didn't get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we couldn't get in touch with them.
A couple of years ago, I was at an open mic, which was a mixed bag open mic. So like everybody was supposed to like do their talents and stuff. And there was like some 20 people watching the show. So there was comedy, there was music, and there was like whatever, storytelling. And then Yoku Big shows up. He was relatively young, like I think 15 or 16 back then. And then he like goes on stage and does a rap piece, right? And nobody's getting it because the crowd is mostly older people from Bandra. So they were just like, and he stops his rap in the middle. "Itno samajh mein aa raha na main kya bol raha hu?"
Oh, that's so
I
good.
continue, and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's so cute. He's going to places."
So Yoku also is the lead. Well, one of the leads in a Shlok Sharma film called Zoo. So if you're aware, yeah. So there's a great moment where Yoku is wearing like this full white suit and walking through the streets, and that was one of the first Indian films to be shot entirely on an iPhone.
Oh, okay.
It's an Anurag Kashyap production. It did the
Should
festival
check it out.
rounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Yoku has his fair share of fans. I can
Yeah.
assure you this, even in our office.
So also when we had the screening at Social, we were very worried about underage drinking, right? Because a lot of these kids are underage. So I was standing at the gate just making sure they're letting people in from our list and stuff. And I told them don't bother with ID
because this issue has happened once before so I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah,
that.
I was going to come to this.
I was going to
myself.
come to this as well. Yeah.
So we were standing there to make sure this does not happen, right? Even though we've got
because
a list.
it's a film about them,
Yeah.
which we are hosting.
And we didn't want a situation where they're not allowed in or there's a lot of fight at the gate for them to get in.
Yeah.
And but there was a little bit because they were like, hey, show us ID. And while we were vouching for them, they were like, no, they need to show us ID. And I was like, they don't have any ID. They've not come with
we
ID.
booked this place out. What
so
is
then
wrong
just
with
let
you
them
guys?
in, right? So that was happening and I was getting a little worried about why are they pushing for ID? And so it was the Sat Bantai's crew waiting outside. And one of the bouncers was like, "Tum log to divine ke tarah dikhte ho." And then so they were just like,
No.
Rewind
Rewind that story.
No. That's what he said first. And then the second bouncer came out and said, "तुम लोग धारावी से हो ना? टोनी की क्रू से हो ना? तुम लोग Doperdelics को जानते हो ना?" Like he's like Dharavi United. So all of these guys with Doperdelics and this other group called Enemies are a part of this rap crew from Dharavi called Dharavi United. So the second bouncer is like, no, they're not like divine lookalikes. They're from Dharavi United. I know you guys. And then he's like, let them in.
That was a great
and
self-resolving moment.
Yeah.
Like,
He's like, I know them. Like it was
Dharavi
great
United,
for us to see that. He's like, I'm from Dharavi. I know you guys. Like just come in.
I still get checked at most venues I perform at.
Do you?
Yeah, even
You
if the
have that
poster
face.
is... I have that face.
Yeah.
Like if I'm performing also, the guy will be like, are you here for the show? Sir, you have to buy a ticket. And then I'm like, no, I'm this.
And this person in the poster is
Like
person
it's
is
right
me.
behind you. And he's like, oh, no wonder I didn't see it. It's behind me. And then he looks and then he lets me. But yeah, the Social has been... it got called up also for doing this.
Yeah.
Where it was, I think one of the nights at Anti where kids from
so
Dharavi weren't
it
allowed
was a
in.
hip-hop homeland
Yeah.
night, showcase night, and that's where I feel that was also kind of a pivotal night in recent history. I don't want to say in the larger narrative, but that's where a lot of people I think that's where Bombay saw Prabdeep perform for the first time in Delhi.
Oh, Prabdeep is great.
It's great. There was a lot of people performing that night. Swadesi, I think, performed. Divine and Nazi were performing a small bit. I mean, there was lots of people doing that thing. The Evil and a lot of Nazi's friends and a bunch of kids from Dharavi weren't allowed to enter. So it kind of became like this whole thing. Oh yeah, you take us from the streets to the clubs, but you don't let us enter the club. So I find that elitism is very prevalent in our alternative music scene, not so much in Bollywood, which is a very weirdly telling sort of sign. But I guess, I mean, we also lack, I mean, maybe again here, when I'm going to call back to that jadedness that I was feeling before making this documentary. I feel we're out of venues in the city. For music
really
specifically. It's like, here's a bar, maybe do a gig. It's never like, here's a venue, maybe throw in a bar.
Yeah,
you know,
as opposed to places like Bangalore and Delhi. But I feel like it's a direct problem is real estate costs. I mean, it's really expensive to run a room where, you know, there's no... Okay, firstly, you have to pay that excise guy so much money to just be working.
No, I think it's a multitude of problems. It's also the people complaining there are no venues will be the ones who'll call you and say, "Arey guest list pe dalna." Arey play 300. And I find it, I mean, for the longest time when I couldn't afford to like pay for gigs, I was going to photograph them, so I'd still wriggle my way in through a guest list or be like, "Hey, kuch kar raha ho."
Yeah.
There were ones that if a band I really want to watch, I'd pay. And you know, and now that I think of it, I'm like, I'm going to London to watch, I don't know, LCD sound system and paying 10,000 rupees. I can pay 1,000 rupees to watch my favorite band in India.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so this.
But you all took too long to figure that out. Like my partner, no, I'm serious. I'll tell you what, my partner Vishwa from Counterculture, he used to run this venue called Counterculture.
I know,
you know
and
Vishwa,
Counterculture is great, right?
Yeah,
so in the
but
sense,
Counterculture is shut.
I know.
Because people don't pay for music.
People don't pay for music.
For
And
comedy, we made it a habit from day one, ki if you're not paying, then you're not coming for my show.
I just find it's a layered problem. We also don't have this music play on the radio, which is still, I want to say, reaches the masses.
Yeah, it
right?
still does, definitely.
I mean, there was a time in the 90s when you would hear a Pentagram or an Industry on the radio. But, I mean, and then there was 94.3 like in the
Thursday
late...
nights.
Yeah.
But that stopped, no?
Yeah.
Has it?
Because May pivoted from radio to podcasts. It's like
But it's
the
that's the
pivot to
thing, right?
video
It's
of.
like even Sucharita is really big on the indie music scene, but it's very hard
It
to
feels
break
like
it.
I feel that FM's ploy into indie music is a very tokenism sort of
Right.
like direction into. So because of a lot of these multitudes of problems, it's the venue structure. That infrastructure doesn't. It's like we have festivals, but you don't have venues. It's like you don't have a weekly club to go and watch a band or a rapper or anything in the city as actively. Well, there's the Habitat, but a lot of people are like, yeah, but if the sound is not good, oh, there's too much reverb. And also, my biggest issue with the fucking music scene is that if you're going to a gig, shut the fuck up. Like, my God, तू बात करना है तो 300 रुपए क्यों खर्च कर रहा है? नीचे जाना दुलाली पे. Like, it's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I went to a Sand Dunes gig, and it's like this very intricate, I don't know, melodic electronic music, and she's playing a live set, like
The one at Flip?
No, the one at it was at Habitat. She was launching her EP, and she was playing with this drummer Tarun Balani, who's really great from Delhi, jazz drummer. And they were playing. I felt like the audience murmurs were part of her track that she had sampled people talking, and I just like, it's impossible. Like the last 5-10 good gigs that I've been to have been like, oh my God, please just keep quiet. It's impossible.
Do you feel like, I think y'all would feel like this more than anyone else, because I don't think other comedians that I talk to feel like this as much. But do you ever feel like you become less of a participant and more of an observer to the things around you? I mean, because and on some level your job is to quantify what is in the world around you and then to put it out again, right? Do you start feeling less and less participative? Like I feel like I just can't relate to a lot of the things going on around me. Like I just feel like my job is now, as my role in life is to now more be an observer and then talk about it on stage rather than talk about it to people.
I don't know. So definitely, I mean, a big part of what we do is we're constantly observing because content is great.
Yeah.
But
The C word.
The truth is that
Annadata.
for me personally, I don't think that if there's not definitely not completely participative, because I can't co-opt the story, but there has to be a certain level of I'm not just empathy, but a certain level of participation. Otherwise, you won't be able to tell the story well.
Yeah,
you know. And I think that is the balance. You know, I don't feel like I'm just an observer, because I can't tell that story well. Then I just cannot. It becomes very, for me, I can't do it. I need to
be in it to.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I became a rapper. But there was a little bit
you feel things for the people that you're making things for.
So that you can tell their stories in a legitimate way.
Yeah, especially for subjects like this.
Yeah.
Where you are part of what you're complaining about in some way.
Absolutely.
That self-awareness is too important to like bring forth in your storytelling. That you can't be complaining about 1,000 brands co-opting and then have the first docu on Vice India be about.
Exactly.
So that can be a part of the narrative. That can't be the narrative.
Yeah.
Like it's an important thing, I feel.
Sweet.
Interesting. Okay, this is a dumb question and I know the answer will probably be no, but did you ever feel unsafe during the entire experience of walking through the gullies? And
wow,
this is
Aakash,
South Bombay
your
elitism.
privilege is showing.
I'm bringing it up.
Not unsafe.
No, I'll tell you why I'm bringing it up.
Dude,
Because
the people in the gullies are the warmest. I grew up in a Chol in Santa Cruz.
Dude, you have to see how they were treating Nidhi. It was like Nidhi Didi. I was like, that's your artist name.
did I not answer the question, initiate the question?
Whatever,
this
your
will probably
privilege
be
is
no.
fucking showing.
No, I'm just
Still.
No, because this is how we talk
Edit
about.
this out. Cancel
I
it.
apologize on behalf of Aakash.
एक second.
Guys.
Had I not
accepted.
brought this up, none of you would have talked about how warm and lovely the street in the gully is. It's reverse psychology.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Sure, really warm. We had the cypher when you guys saw that had. So we had like 90 people on that terrace, and we wanted to shoot that within 1 hour, like the sunset window. And we had 90 people, and I got them there before, and I was like, just be ready, okay? The minute I call you, just be ready.
We were like, we're going to do 2 takes of the whole cypher, but we know we're never going to get the same stuff. We had 3 cameras. We got literally the DOPs were the happiest because 6:15 to 6:45 is what the duration of the cypher lasted, 30 minutes non-stop.
And it had to be constant. Like we were getting people on the side, unmiking them, miking them, being like, next person, just go do your thing.
We invited 3-4 crews. Everyone showed up
so
with...
the first crew that we were doing it in Dharavi, so we were like, calling the other crews and being like, are you guys okay with coming to Dharavi? And they're like, yeah, we don't care, it's fine. then telling the Dharavi boys, we're calling other people here. Are you guys okay with them coming?
Like, हाँ मस्त है.
Yeah, so then one...
Very reminiscent of early comedy scene, you know, when there would be an open mic on Monday, iBar was the only place that was running, and people from 3 different states would come, and then, you know, every Sunday was like church, you know, like, oh, hey man, how have you been? It's been a while since I've seen you.
So like, one of the crews that we called from Nalasopara, Bombay local, they were like, sure, we're gonna come, but हम 20 लोग आएंगे, हमारा सब crew आएगा. And I was like, cool. Then I told the K9, who's actually going to be speaking at the panel tomorrow, Karan. So I was like, K9, we've got 20 people coming from Nalasopara, Bombay local. He's like, you want people? I'll get people. We're in Dharavi.
BMX,
He's like, सब मैं लाता हूँ अभी 50 लोग आएंगे हमारे तरफ.
It was crazy. Like, in fact, at the end of that cypher, a lot of them were like, this is probably one of the biggest cyphers Bombay's ever seen, and with so many crews. And we were like, we just wanted to shoot some good rap. And it became like this.
But the most difficult part of that cypher was because we kept them waiting like for about 15-20 minutes before we hit that magic hour, right? So I was like, okay guys, there's food, water, and everyone's taking a break and smoking shit ton of doobs. And then everyone was really stoned, and then getting all 90 stone boys on one side was just like, please listen to me,
I wanted
please.
this one shot where I was like, okay, we see them from a top angle where we see like the rest of Bombay sky, and you see them all walk in.
Yeah.
No, it was incredibly difficult to just get them to
not
move.
Happening. Some
चलना नहीं हो पाएगा बॉस.
आगे जा रहे हैं 10 लोग पीछे आ गए.
Dank ass weed and
so people
like
just
public
not
क्या हो रहा है यार? But like you should have seen the DOP's face, and he was like, boss, magic, because the sun was setting and like it was orange, and he like take me 30
and
minutes non-stop.
Smoked up some
He was like slow mo. And some of them were going for it into the camera, and some were like going far. So just
because there's no cypher that's been shot like this. Like the last one was the Gully Boy one, which happened on Divine's phone. So we had 3 cams, and people I figured realized that if they can really kill it because they're going to look really good.
Organic also.
We had EMF rap in English in the middle of all of these guys and diss Hindi rap. And I was like,
staying true to character. In fact, he says that all they want, and I realized
they wanted
that
me to be a little bitch. And if I got to make it, then I've got to be a bitch. Hindi rap.
And all they wanted me to do was Hindi rap.
Yeah,
Hindi
and we were like, wow.
While he was doing that, his like middle fingers were raised up, and he's like, all they
and he's we were like, why are you doing this?
Hardcore.
But that's great, right? The sign that there is a community that accepts dissent.
Exactly.
We live in a country where dissent is now probably not allowed.
I've got to say that though I feel certain portions of the rap community definitely need to learn to take that better because they're not. And
that's okay. I think friction creates better content.
As long as we don't have a Tupac and Biggie scene going on here, you know.
Why
the
not?
Last thing, because
people get shot.
People get shot,
don't
man.
kill each other, but
rivalries are great.
I mean, hip hop is built on beef. Like just I know it's bad and all. But I mean, without that, it's not happening. Like I just feel a lot of them are a few of them are just ultra safe with their whole approach. They're like, हम सब साथ में, अरे नहीं रे, तू अलग-अलग जगह से.
So I'll give you one little piece of my experience in life. When comedy started, there were enough of us to fit on a WhatsApp group. 30, 40, 50 of them. 50, and everybody was friends. And then one day people realized that there are enough of us that all of us don't really need to be friends anymore. And smash, boom, pow, people hate each other now. So, hey, it'll be it's a matter of time.
I hope so. As in, they already hate each other, but सामने तो हम सब
like a dope verse about it, you know.
Yeah, rather put it out as a verse. Give me a beat, give me a fucking great verse.
I hope that happens with y'all. With us, it doesn't go beyond bitching because nobody wants to talk about anything on stage, which really sucks.
ये लोग कर लेंगे.
I hope they do it.
They have, in fact, public has spoken to us about it on camera as well. But again, for the narrative, we were like, okay, let's not be like, so.
All right.
बहुत hard.
बहुत hard. Don't appropriate. My culture is not.
I was from the gullies, okay. I'm not even like.
पर मैं तो मेरे स्कूल में लोग इस को बंटा बोलते थे. So it's not like it was.
Bama and Banta.
Bama and Banta was there in school. It's not like.
That's a Bombay thing.
Pasha, Pata.
Pasha थोड़ा ना.
Palang Tod. My favorite was Palang Tod.
Palang Tod, Dhasu, Dinchak.
Yeah. Dinchak is forever ruined.
Dude, there is a Vogue or some one of these brands. They do this question 70 something.
72 questions with Vogue.
Or some one of those, right? Where there's some actress. I think Deepika is explaining Dhasu on screen. हम लोग औरत तेरे को नहीं पता है, dude. तेरे को क्या relation है Dhasu का तेरे life में, dude? तूने कुछ Dhasu चीज नहीं किया अभी तक.
वो भी उसको रणवीर ने सिखाया रहेगा.
हाँ.
After he called the Gully movie. They're bitching the movie out so much already.
All right. On
that Dasu note.
On that Dasu note.
I mean, what if it will be a blockbuster hit? I can assure you this.
Well, we'll see.
See, so was Rock On. So let's not.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, say what you want, but na. Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much for listening to Varta Lab, guys. Thank you, Naman and Nidhi, for coming and joining us. It also NN.
Yeah, Naman and Nidhi.
Sweet.
Naman.
So, this is Varta Lab. This is our second last episode for this season, you guys.
Yes, you guys. Don't worry.
I thought it was the finale.
No.
No, itna bhi nahi.
But we are already working on season 2 and we are doing a lot of cool things with season 2. A lot more different guests in season 2. We are going to do some video stuff for season 2. And
if you have recommendation for people we should talk to and get their stories out.
Yeah, man. Wherever they are, whoever they are, DM us. Navin is
House of Narona
on the interwebs. You guys?
Aakash is
My name, Naman Saraiya. You can follow me on wherever.
Try Jade.
Try TRY or TRI?
TRY.
TRYJADE.
Yeah, I'm so happy we're out of time, so we don't need to discuss this.
Try being jaded.
Oh, like that. Right?
No.
If you can't find Nidhi on social media, you can find her on a ferry to Mud Island. That's where you can find her.
I'm Kuchvi Mehta on the interwebs, and this, ladies and gentlemen, has been Varta Lab.
That's all so much now.
Hi, I'm Vishal Gondal, an entrepreneur. I've had the chance to meet and understand how some of the super achievers have hacked their way to success, and they have done spectacular innovations. Now I take a closer look at these people's lives to find out what lies beneath the force, only on the Vishal Gondal Show. Episodes out fortnightly on Wednesdays on the IVM website, app, or your favorite podcasting platform.
Yeah, it's IVM here, let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day. Coming on this podcast cause we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head. We might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out, it's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IVM Daily, Monday to Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.